Well, Ms. Clerk, we've given 2 minutes grace here, gained one more member, so I think we'll call the meeting to order. You send us live whenever you're ready. Oh, we already are live. Okay, well, that's fantastic. Anticipation. So I'll begin with our land acknowledgement. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. So, approval of the minutes from May 22nd. Moved by Councillor Cuddle, second by Councillor Clary. All those in favor? Aye. Those would be done. Business additions and deletions. Ms. Clerk.
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Would someone like to move the order of business? Moved by Councillor Clary, second by Councillor Cuddle. All those in favor? Aye. All right, we've got an approved order of business. Business arising out of the minutes, there is none. Calls for declaration of conflict of interest. Moving right along, no motion of reconsideration, no motions of rescission. We have no deferred business. We have no tabled matters. Correspondence, Ms. Clerk.
No correspondence has been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you. Does anyone have a petition
no
for us?
No petitions.
Nothing from members of council either, so okay. We have no presentations. Public participation. So this is your chance to talk to all of us. I've got a script here. Next, we will have the public participation section of the meeting. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to me, the chair. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete for all speakers with her high-tech signage. Any member of the public who is registered with the clerk's office will be given 5 minutes to address. And when do we have anyone on the list? Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah, Ben Hammer has.
Ben Hammer, Mr. May, if you don't mind waiting, we've just got we have someone on the actual list today. Apology Action Center first. It kind of looked like you were the only one here, but there was Ben up there in the back.
Okay.
All right, you've got 5 minutes.
Like everyone else, I want more transit service, but unfortunately I'm here to request less. We need schedules that reflect real-world conditions and passengers can plan around. Until we have enough drivers, predictable service is more important than frequency. In 2023, trips were cut on over half of Halifax Transit's routes to limit forced overtime to weekends, reducing burnout to improve driver retention. It was frustrating for passengers, but burnout was causing drivers to leave faster than they could be recruited. These service reductions worked. There has been a steady net increase in drivers, but far below management's projections. Nearly all trips cut in 2023 have been added back to the schedule, which sounds good on paper, but it's not actually happening in practice. We're again reliant on forced overtime every day of the week because service is added back to schedules faster than drivers can be recruited, and service is being cut unpredictably as a result. Not only are our drivers being overworked, but the automation of scheduling without adequate quality control is wasting staff time and causing runs to be cut without notice. Halifax buses were fitted with GPS trackers 8 years ago, sending location pings every 30 seconds. This data provides real-world travel times between time points in the network, accounting for traffic congestion and stops to let passengers on and off. This data should be used to schedule achievable time points based on real-world conditions. Instead, time points are based on distance. Schedules assigned to bus drivers have time points that couldn't be met if the driver made every green light, didn't stop for passengers, and exceeded the speed limit. Reported on-time performance is abysmal, but actual on-time performance is even lower. Excessive delays are unintentionally filtered out of the sample because we're seeing delays longer than the software knows how to process. Since 2020, only one route has actually achieved the 85% on-time performance target for 1 quarter. So during the lockdown era, when the roads were empty, there were few passengers to stop for, and the suspension of fare collection made boarding faster. Some shifts assign a driver to loop on a single route, but most shifts are through running. As soon as a driver finishes one route, they immediately change their destination sign to begin service on a different route. Any delays on one route then affect all subsequent routes that driver and vehicle are assigned to that shift, with cascading impacts across the network. Given how many time points in the schedule are simply unachievable under real-world conditions, buses are unable to finish one route in time to begin their next. When a bus is delayed enough that it's close to the next scheduled departure, that run is cut. The bus goes out of service and drives across town without carrying any passengers to try and start its next assigned route on time. This minimizes further delays across the network, but reduces capacity utilization. Many bus drivers commute in for a 13-hour day that they're only scheduled to work 8 hours of due to split shifts, but they're inevitably assigned overtime due to short staffing. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for drivers to work 10 hours in a day and spend 3 of those hours out of service deadheading between runs that had to be cut because the schedule as assigned cannot reasonably be delivered under real-world conditions. It's demoralizing to be assigned overtime hours only to spend them out of service driving an empty bus across town. Passengers irate that the previous bus never came voice their frustration to drivers upon boarding, which increases dwell times and further delays service. Drivers called in on their days off voiced their frustrations to passengers, and staff time is then spent cataloging and responding to complaints against both passengers and drivers. Reliance on overtime also makes it hard to get time off work approved for medical appointments. If drivers can't access early diagnosis, they're not accessing early treatment, and it's no surprise we've already lost one driver to early death this year. Drivers have been terminated for misusing sick days to attend medical appointments, and when such terminations are challenged and go to arbitration, it's HRM's tax base that pays legal fees for both parties, so the operators union is funded through dues paid by bus drivers that are paid by the city. Letting bus drivers go to the doctor will save costs for everyone. I know the labor pool of drivers exists in the city because I can order a cab or Uber equivalent and reasonably expect it to arrive within minutes. I'm getting recruitment ads for school bus companies in other provinces promising no evenings or weekends, and I don't have a driver's license. Our drivers deserve fair pay, but they also need work-life balance, healthcare, and the basic dignity of predictable washroom access. Transit is not sustainable transportation without sustainable labor conditions. I'm here to request service reductions to manage burnout among drivers and service predictability for passengers. Less service is a tough sell for passengers, so fare collection should be suspended until we have enough drivers. It will also speed up boarding and reduce travel times to improve on-time performance. And how do we recoup the fares we're not collecting? Well, we are already paying drivers time and a half to drive empty buses out of service across town because the schedules aren't realistic. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Don't go anywhere. We do have a question of clarification, but I was remiss in one thing. At agenda review, the lot of us, we had some discussion about what form public participation should take at this committee after our last meeting where we had some strong feelings as to what we should do. And in talking with legal and clerks, there's not exactly firm direction in our administrative order to go by, and actually our different kind of community councils all handle this somewhat differently. So what we've worked out and what I'm proposing to all of you, if people have feedback, you can provide after the meeting. But what I'm thinking we need to do is public participation is on like a formal presentation on the agenda. It's questions of clarification, which we all know that piece. If it's a public hearing, you just ask a question on what was presented, right? We're not going to get into back and forth debate. It's just a clear question of the presenter. So with that said, I'm going to go to you, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you for the opportunity and the admonishment. Just a quick question, though. Actually, probably several questions. Ben, where do you get your data from? Do you have like a family member that works there? And also, how come you are not applying for jobs at Transit?
I talk to the operators union on a fairly regular basis to understand the labor conditions they're working in so I can advocate to make transit a reliable choice for more people. I don't have any family members in transit, but I meet with their union and labor reps.
How do they share that data with you?
It's largely anecdotal. I can follow up and get more specific data, but if you're interested in more detail, I would highly recommend you meet with the ATU and NSGU chapters that represent service delivery.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Oh, well done, Councillor Cleary. Seeing no one else on the board, thank you very much for your presentation to us today. And so now there's no one else on our signed up list, so this would be your turn, Mr. May. Just your name, community for the record.
Elliot Street, Dartmouth. With your indulgence of yourself and the committee members, I'd like to give the present to the clerk 3 photographs, or copies of. I live 75 metres from the gates of the Dartmouth Common. We've lived there for over 50 years. As chairman and as my councillor, you know pretty much what I'm going to say. When you look at these images, you will see the threat that then persists to pedestrians in Dartmouth Common. Last meeting, you had a staff report on the Regional Centre AAA Bikeway. The map on the last page shows 2 pathways. Cyclists and scooters of all sizes and all weights and all speeds now use every pathway in direct violation of the HRM Charter. I want to quote to you Section 66 of the HRM Charter, where it defines the Dartmouth Commons. And this was legislation introduced by Premier Darrell Dexter as representative, as a former councillor of Dartmouth. He introduced this as part of the measures that allowed the bus terminal to be built. And in exchange, he laid out the law regarding the common. In Section 66 of the HRM Charter, subsection 4, it talks about, well, subsection 6C, pedestrian priority, safe and comfortable pedestrian circulation. Now, you don't need to be an experienced judge or an experienced lawyer to know what that means. Pedestrians have priority. And in discussion with a cyclist, an amicable discussion with a cyclist the other day, he was saying, well, why don't you move over there? And I told him, well, I walk down the centre of the pathway because I feel safer. I feel safer because it's 8 years since I was in Pemberton and dismounting from a bike, I fell and broke my hip. 10 days in hospital in North Vancouver, numerous medical procedures, and I'm fortunate to be alive all these years later. I was not long after the problems I was having with cyclists were so bad that I went to see a professional, and he told me, Colin, you got PTSD. So what I'm asking for is that the legislation be enforced, because now these scooters are bigger and faster, and the people are wearing helmets, they're wearing all sorts of clothing. They are a threat to small children. They are a threat to, well, they're basically a threat to everybody. And nothing has been done, and nothing will be done. And the danger to councillors and to city staff and to the city generally is that should there be an accident in there where a cyclist has hit a small child or an elderly lady or hit people from the manor, that there will be a court case. And this is why I repeatedly come forward and either speak to this community or speak to my community council, because I want to get it on the record, and I want to remind you that you all have a responsibility to follow the requirements of the Charter and the requirements as laid out specifically in that section, and enable myself to continue to walk safely in there. Usually I have my walking stick with me. Today I forgot it. I only use it because there are days where I do not walk in a straight line, and I cannot help that. So if you have any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them. I have to say I've taken transit in many parts of the world, from Tokyo to Durban, Cape Town, New York, Chicago, Toronto.
Mr. May, your
Vancouver.
time's up, but you can conclude
you.
your thought if you wish.
Thank you.
There is a question for you. Councillor Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming in. Could you maybe give us an idea of what sort of enforcement you would be thinking would be effective for the situation that you described?
I think if you had I don't believe we need permanent enforcement. The signs at 2 of the gates specifically have a map, just like the map in your document from last meeting, right? And I have signs that say yield to pedestrians. My preference is to say pedestrian priority. Pedestrians have priority. Maybe that should be added, right? I think cycling organizations could be asked to disseminate greater information. The bird scooters are not allowed in the common, according to your recent micromobility report. And I've got the page, right? There it is, it lists where they are. They're not allowed in the Dartmouth Common, but anybody else can use this, and they do it. The number's significantly increased, and they're bigger and heavier. And as I said, there are small children in the neighborhood. And then when you drop down to Alderney Drive, there's the manor there. And so the seniors walk in there, and there's people of all ages who walk. And it's if the message was given to cyclists through the organizations that there are, if the signage is about to change, so I emailed 5 weeks ago, the lady who, anyway, I got a reply yesterday from her on the phone. We haven't talked, and I'd suggested that the signage be changed and that I'd like it to discuss it with her. So I don't know what the signage is going to be. But I think that, you know, I think of when I cycled in Yorkshire, which was uphill and downhill, and it wasn't flat. And one of the most famous British cyclists in the Tour de France, he came from there. But that's going back to the 60s when the Tour de France was nothing like what it is today. And so...
We might be wandering a little off topic, Mr. May.
Anyway, I was a keen cyclist.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to get a sense. You're asking for a signage change, but not necessarily any increased patrols or ticketing or fines or anything like that.
You need to begin, I'd say you would start with a patrol. You can either do it in the morning or in the afternoon, 3 o'clock on, right? And whatever new signage that's going on needs to clearly delineate which pathways they can use. I mean, I gave up using the main pathway. I thought, well, if I go down these other ones, I don't have to worry. And then next thing I know, I got a cyclist behind me, and I'm like, oh God, I will have to go and use another one. But now they're on every pathway.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation to us today. Would anybody else like to present to us today? Would anybody else like to come forward and present to committee today? Third and final call. Would anyone else like to present today? All right. Thank you, everyone who shared. So moving on, information items brought forward, there are none. We go to our staff report, which is 13.1.1, proposed residential parking permit surcharge for heavy vehicles. There is no presentation, so I believe this is your baby, Councillor Clary, so I think we'll go to you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to put the motion on the floor that the Transportation Standing Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to direct staff to prepare amendments to implement a pricing model based on vehicle weight for annual residential parking permits, as described in the discussion section of the staff report dated April 14, 2025, and return to Halifax Regional Council for approval.
Is there a second?
Thank
Second
you.
by Councillor Young.
Thank you.
Almost had you, Councillor Purdy. Go ahead, Councillor Clary.
I know Councillor Purdy was champing at the bit there to second that. Well, first, I just want to thank Mr. Nephew who wrote this report. It is one of the best reports I've ever seen written that has come back to Transportation Standing Committee ever. It's amazing. The detail, the explanation, the rationale. And so, I mean, we had this discussion previously. I'm satisfied with this to move forward to Regional Council to have the discussion there. I think it's worthwhile. I understand the challenges, especially with other types of parking and our payment system and how difficult that would be. So we'll leave that for now until maybe technology changes or we're upgrading that system. But as a baby step forward, I think it's a really great way to move on to this. I also have to compliment staff on their impeccable timing. I think after Tuesday's meeting, this is just the right time to bring this forward. So we'll see how this goes at Regional Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. There's no one else on the board. If no one objects, I might make one comment just here from the chair. You know, it's kind of interesting with, you know, all the kind of attention we all had on transportation issues on Monday. As I was kind of poking around, one of the things that did pop up that was rather interesting to me in terms of causes of congestion is actually big vehicles, right? About 10% apparently of congestion over the last 30 years can be attributed to the vehicle size creep that has occurred on our roads. So I'm supportive of this motion. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have a few questions on this one. So how would that affect our tradespeople when they come downtown and they park and things like that, or the effect on the extra costs? And is it affecting at all the businesses downtown in where they have people going to their businesses and looking to park? So how would that affect them too as well?
I think we have Jeff here from staff.
Good afternoon, Jeff Nephew, Supervisor of Parking Operations. Mr. Chair, through you to the councillor. The recommendation is put forward, puts the weight surcharge on our residential permits only. So any visitors would be exempt from the surcharge in this iteration. Also, most visitors to the businesses would be using the hourly or paid parking, and at this time we're not looking to implement any kind of changes to the fee structure there either.
So it wouldn't affect the tradespeople who are downtown and things like that?
Sorry?
It wouldn't affect the tradespeople who have to park downtown?
No, nobody visiting downtown would be subject to these changes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cuddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I will support this going to debate at Regional Council. I think it's an important one. You know, we do need to talk about vehicle size for all kinds of reasons. Like, one is for the safety of our roads downtown. The other is you know, it's like charging one person who orders a hot dog the same amount as the person who orders a giant steak, right? Like, it's not equitable. And so I think there is merit to considering this and looking at this. You know, when it comes to tradespeople coming downtown for a job site where they might need a vehicle, if it's related to work and they need that vehicle for work, then perhaps there's another system that we can look at. And I know it doesn't impact them. I hear what you said. This will not impact that at this point. But even still, it's one of the biggest complaints we get when we have big pickup trucks taking up parking on residential streets for construction projects, and that takes away often people who might be in that area for a business or to go to a service. Like we've heard this through the bids as well, and I do think we need to think of different programs for getting people who are working on construction sites who aren't regular commuters, if they don't need their vehicle, how do we help those companies facilitate some kind of other mode of transportation, because it is a lot. So that is a separate subject, and it's not about penalizing anybody. This isn't about saying that anything against people who drive pickup trucks. I know lots of people who drive pickup trucks. It's just really about equity. And it's like when you go to McDonald's and you order a soda from the drive-through window, a small soda's cheaper than a large soda, and that's really, to me, what this is about. It's about equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the reason for this, and I'll support it going forward, but I'm a bit reluctant because I think we're already having trouble enforcing our existing parking rules and that sort of thing now. So anytime we create a change and it has to be enforced, I think we're adding on to the burden of an under-resourced system. So I'm just wondering if, I think this is a modified recommendation, if this modified one will present challenges for our existing enforcement resources.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, the recommendation is worded, we'll handle most of the changes administratively ahead of time. So at the time of application for a permit, we'll do the evaluation and apply a surcharge there. Once the vehicle is permitted at the right amount, for the enforcement staff, it won't matter to them whether it's a small hatchback or a big pickup truck. They'll just see a valid permit that's appropriate for that vehicle has been issued. So there'll be no change to the on-street enforcement burden.
Okay.
Councillor Purdy.
Well,
sorry, Councillor Morris.
I'm sorry.
It sounded like you were done.
No, not quite. I'm just trying to puzzle this out. So if the person is maybe lending their spot to somebody else, is there any enforcement of that if complaints come in, or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the permit is tied to the vehicle, so you can't lend it between vehicles. Each vehicle is registered separately, so it's not necessarily for a spot. It would be for that vehicle to be registered in the system.
Okay.
So if you required a permit in a smaller vehicle to use the spot in front of your house or where the street where you live, that would be a separate application, a separate permit.
And when complaints come in, it will be easy to identify. If complaints come in, it'll be easy to identify somebody who's not complying.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Now we'll go to Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. I wasn't going to buzz in, but since everyone else did, I feel obligated. This was a great report, very thorough, lots of information. I'm not in favor of this. If we want to look at increasing permit fees, that's one thing. As a whole, that's great, but not to pick and choose for vehicle size. I don't like that. And also on the cross jurisdictional scan, you identified that in a survey of municipalities in the attendance for the parking professionals last year, there are no other municipalities actively considering a weight-based pricing structure for permits. So I don't think this is something that I think we should do at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cleary, are you looking to close? I did have one question I wanted to ask. Okay. So I mean, these aren't the meters. This is the residential permit parking. So when walk me through technically how that actually works. Like when someone applies for a permit, they have to give us their license plate. They have to give us their vehicle. How do we, is there any kind of check to see that the information given is correct, or can someone just I'm driving the hatchback and I get my permit and it's actually a Ford F-150?
To you, Mr. Chair, we currently, as part of the application process, use the vehicle permit registration to verify residential eligibility, so that to make sure that the vehicle is registered to the address you say it's registered at. On that document, the curb weight is listed.
Oh, okay.
So this is already information we collect, we just don't use it. So from an administrative piece of view, it would just be one more piece that we would verify as part of our permit verification process.
So if the stealth Ford F-150, which is not actually a hatchback, comes in, we would actually we'd look at the registration and we would know.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cleary, to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's funny, when you read through the staff report and you know our process for permit applications, this is really straightforward. It's probably the easiest way to do this in terms of this approach. But more importantly to me, and I got to give kudos to our mayor, because he often talks about how we need to diversify our revenue sources. And as listed in the report, this would be another way of bringing in a small amount, but a nice little amount of revenue that's not tax revenue. And so this is right up where the mayor wants to be in terms of diversifying that revenue. So I'm looking forward to the discussion at Regional Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clary. Seeing no one else on the board, if someone wants to call the question. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? So that carries with one no. Thank you, colleagues. So moving along, we have no motions. There are no in camera. There are no added items. There's no notices of motion. So the date of the next meeting, and probably the finest work. Oh, there is a notice of motion. Oh, my apologies.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take notice that at a future meeting of the Transportation Standing Committee, I intend to move a motion to request an information report on the reporting and response process for issues related to micromobility and the number and nature of complaints in the first 2 months since their introduction.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other notices of motion? All right, I think this time we're good to move. In camera, added items, notice of motion, we have none of that. So the date of our next meeting, the most important work I think I have done as chair is the meeting will be on the 21st rather than the week following. So you get to come to council and then go to TSE a few weeks later, and you get the next week off for your own pleasure. So don't thank me all at once. You're welcome. So we'll see you all back here on August 21st.